Citizens of the world, welcome back to another Keep Yours podcast where we try and keep a few more dollars in your pocket. So today we are continuing on our series on a home and buying a home. And hopefully you've listened to the podcast on should I rent or buy and decided that you really want to own a home. If you don't want to own a home and you don't want to deal with the things in a home, then your mission should really be to go find yourself cheap rent and figure out a way to reduce your rent cost as much as possible. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but the best one is go hustle it. You got to go find it out. But assuming you've been through that and you've decided, nope, buying is for me, and perhaps you listened to the podcast on leverage and you say, hey, now I understand why I'm going to make more buying a home because of leverage, as long as the value of that home doesn't go down very much, and especially if it goes up, then it's really advantageous in terms of leverage. And if you're a young person and you're looking for real estate investment, the first easiest way for you to get in the real estate game is to use your first-time home buyers, 3.5% down exemption, and buy a duplex or a triplex, and 3 is usually as much as they'll let you go with an FHA loan, and rent out the other units. Or you can buy a home and rent out other rooms. And I highly recommend this because you're getting other people to subsidize and pay your rent, which gives you more money to invest elsewhere and more money to save. And those are all good things, all things that we're after in the long term. So now you've decided, okay, buying is for me, and I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to buy a home. So what's going to happen to me now? What are the steps now to buying this home? And the first step, and hopefully you've been working on this long before, and I reiterate this constantly because it is such a huge factor in people's lives and they don't pay much attention to it. First, you've got to get your credit score right. Otherwise, the cost of buying that home is a lot more than it would be otherwise. Typically, the difference in just a couple percentage points is 20%. 1 percentage point difference in buying a home is typically about 10% of purchasing power. This is one of the reasons that home prices have gone up, because interest rates have gone down. So what people can afford to buy with the lower interest rate has increased. That's driven up home prices. When we see interest rates rise again, if they ever do, there's questions around whether or not we'll ever get out of this massive debt pile that we're all in, and if they could raise interest rates anyway. But if interest rates go up, the opposite happens, and all of a sudden people have a lot harder time buying a home. So if you can get a lower interest rate because of your credit score, that means you're paying a whole lot less. So credit score is still the most important factor when you're going to go buy a home, because it's going to determine your interest rate. Now, that being said, the interest rate you get does not have to be the interest rate you pay the entire time you own the home. But if interest rates rise and your credit score doesn't get any better, then it's not going to help you. If interest rates go down and your credit score gets better, then you also look at refinancing down the road. But refinancing has costs attached to it. So again, before you go to buy, work on your credit score. And if you need to learn how to do that, we can go back and revisit. But you really want your score above a 760. 760 is the line at which you get the lowest rate. And if you can get it above that, great. And if you need info on that, go back and read the older blog, go back and read the podcast, research everything you can on your credit score, learn how it works so you can learn strategies to improve it. But the main strategies are pay your bills on time and don't have a lot of other debt. If you need a boost in your credit score and you've been renting for a long time, check out Rental Karma. These guys are doing something very interesting, which is they're going to the landlord that you might have, and especially if you're in major complexes, if you're renting an apartment out of a big apartment complex, then they're going to the apartment complex owner and they are saying, hey, would you be willing to report this person's payments for rent to the credit agencies? And a lot of them are participating in this because it's good for business. And they go, okay, yeah, we'll report it. Well, now all of a sudden that's a debt owed and debt paid. And if you paid that on time and you can show that, then you can boost your credit score with that. Additionally, all of the major credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, they'll run their own program for you where they'll include utility bills. So any other bill that you've had in your name that you've paid on time that can help increase your credit score, if you're going to buy a home, those are important things to go look at and do, because that can save you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of the life of your loan just by doing a few things up front to increase your credit score. So I always emphasize the importance of the credit score. It's going to be important your entire journey. So it starts off being important in terms of the rate that you're going to pay on interest. But if you take care of your credit score and you have a good credit score, then it's going to allow you to do things down the road like travel hacking, where you can play with different credit cards and basically get free benefits that other people essentially are paying for. And I read an article this last year that their credit card companies are raising interest rates on those with lower credit because they're giving away so many freebies to those with good credit. And I say that kind of sucks for the people with bad credit. But if you're one of the ones with good credit and you're getting the benefit of that, that's fantastic. We'll leave that for another day. But getting your credit right up front is very, very important for you to go get that home. It's going to, if you have the lower rate, that'll increase the amount of home that you could potentially buy. That increases potentially the return, because usually higher priced homes, until you get into the $1 million homes, typically will increase in value at a faster rate than lower cost entry level homes. So the second thing you need to do once you've improved your credit, and you're like, my credit score is now 770, I am now ready. I'm also saving for my down payment. So you've got to at least have that 3.5% to sit there. You go, okay, now I need to find somebody to work with as a lender. If you have really good credit, then you can shop. If you don't have really good credit, you're going to end up shopping for the wrong reasons. So Bankrate is an easy site to use just to literally shop rates. So you go on Bankrate, it'll show you here's who's giving the lowest 30-year rates right now in the marketplace today. And you can go look at those lenders and choose. And people want to say one lender's better than the other. I'm going to tell you they're doing the exact same function. They are all just pushing paper. And what I mean by that is they're not going to end up holding your loan for forever. They don't want to. One of the main ways in which they make money is by taking your home loan, bundling it with lots of other home loans, and turning that into what amounts to a portfolio of loans that becomes a instrument unto itself, a 3 to 5% yielding bond return, if you will, backed by mortgages. So it's a mortgaged-backed security. That's what that means. So the mortgage-backed security crisis we had in 2008 was because everybody bought these mortgaged-backed securities thinking they were backed by a home value that only went up in value. And then when home values went down, oh shit, we lost a lot of money because we have all these loans that are not going to get paid. That was the crisis. But this is what almost every single person is going to do with your home loan. Some banks, a few, will actually hold that loan for you. Usually, they hold that loan when you're paying a higher interest rate than you would otherwise. So shop that loan. What are they doing? They're providing financing. That is a commodity service. They are loaning you money so they can take that loan, bundle it with others, and sell it off. So do not get attached to who underwrites your mortgage. It is not that one has a secret sauce that the other doesn't have. They're all going to do the exact same things. They are all going to require the exact same requirements because they're all state mandated. State mandates control contracts for a home. They control the financing for homes. They control what kind of mortgage products they can sell you. And they used to just let you sell you anything. That was part of the crisis problem too. But your lender is not necessarily like your best friend, doesn't need to be. You don't have to have a great relationship with them. Their job is just to get the loan closed, and they want to, because if they don't close the loan, they don't get any money. So they have an incentive to actually do it. Your lender is actually in a good position in terms of incentives being aligned to make sure that you get the home that you want to get. All right, so we're going to choose the lender, and I highly recommend you go through pre-approval so that you know what your budget is. If you don't know what your budget is, then how do you go shop? Because here's what's going to happen if you don't have a budget. If you don't know what you can get approved for, then you can't go to your real estate agent and say, we are pre-approved for X amount. And the real estate agent's probably going to ask you that anyway. Have you gone through pre-approval? Because they don't want to spend a lot of time with you showing you a lot of homes that you might not be able to afford. So pre-approval is going to make sure that you've got your money set aside. It's going to make sure that you are basically already pre-approved for an amount. And that is your budget. And that is what you can go shopping around with. And it doesn't mean you need to spend all of your budget. And in fact, if you can find something that's much below your budget that suits your needs, that is often recommended because then you're not stretched financially. So people always ask, okay, well, what are they doing in the pre-approval process? How do they determine this? And it's basically just ratios off of your income. So all loans, whether they're business loans, personal loans, home loans, car loans, and car loans might be the one exception to the rule in this, but almost all loans are based on your ability to repay. So they are looking at how much income you have and the ability to use that income to pay for a mortgage. So typically the number they like to get at is about 30% of your gross earnings goes to a home. More than that, they consider it you're overpaying for a home based on the wages that you're getting. And this is pretty typical in like high-end markets. If you go to New York or San Francisco, expensive places to live, a lot of people spend the majority of their money on their home, more than 30%, up to 50%, 60%, which is you're stretching your budget. So typically pre-approval has to do with two things. One, how much money do you make? So if you make more money, then of course you can get approved for a bigger loan. And the crazy part about getting approved on a 30-year mortgage is they're looking at your income today and assessing that. Now, what your income on your W-2 is today and what it will be in 10 years, hopefully it's going up because you're learning more things and becoming more valuable. But you could also lose your job in 2 years or in 2 months. That you could get laid off at any time. But they'll approve you on the assumption that whatever your W-2 says right now and your most recent pay stub is going to continue for the next 30 years. And this is why 30-year mortgages are kind of this crazy thing that only really exists because of the government. Nobody else would loan you money for 30 years on the assumption you're going to continue to make the same amount of money. It's just, who can predict out 30 years? So pre-approval is about saying, okay, here's how much money I have available, to pay for rent based off of these ratios. And here's how much, therefore, that payment can afford me in terms of monthly cost. Now, if you're doing a 3.5% down, then that monthly cost. So a lot of people want to go, okay, 30% for a home. So I can buy, if the payment for the home is 30% of my wages, I'm good. But that's not all the expense you have into the home. You're also going to have to pay taxes. You're also going to have to pay insurance. And if you put less than 20% down, sometimes 15% depending on the lender, then you're going to have to pay private mortgage insurance, which is also based on your credit score. So if you are a young person trying to get yourself moved up in the system by going, hey, I'm going to put 3.5% down and own a home, if your credit's bad, then you're going to pay a higher interest rate and your PMI is going to be higher. And usually that'll be locked in too for a certain set number of payments. So it's hard to get rid of, even if your home goes up in value. This is kind of the hook that they've put in recently, I guess is the best way to say it. But it's the part that I don't like, where if you all of a sudden come by some money. Say a relative dies, leaves you $50,000. You use that to pay down your mortgage so that you have 20% down. Then your PMI should go away. But now they've got these loans where it's basically locked in for a set period of time. Some of these loans are even hard to refinance. So you have to be careful about what you're signing up for, especially with the PMI. But back to what we're talking about, the rate and your pre-approval. So you're getting pre-approved, which means that the amount you have available has to go to PMI, interest, taxes, insurance, and principal, all wrapped into one. So the amount that they're going to pre-approve you for is not going to be the amount that you want, and especially if you're single and getting going. But it is what it is. That's why you want to go through pre-approval. It's giving you your budget. So now you have your budget. Now you have to decide what you're going to do with your down payment. Am I going to do the 3.5%? Am I going to do PMI? Am I going to pay that extra? Is it worth it? And I can't give you the answer to that question without knowing everything about your personal situation and what you're going to do with the home. But here's what I'm going to tell you when it makes a lot of sense. If you're a single person about to buy a single family house for yourself and yourself only, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You'd probably find cheaper rent solo than what a house with mortgage, insurance, taxes, everything's going to cost you. But if all of a sudden you go, hey, wait a minute, I have good credit. I can get my 3.5% down payment. I could buy a 3-bedroom house or a duplex or something else where I can have roommates and they're paying my rent. Now, all of a sudden, if you go, hey, I have to pay PMI, which cost me an extra $200, but I can get a 3-bedroom house and I can rent out 2 of the rooms. And all of a sudden, my mortgage is 2/3 paid for, all of that. My PMI, my principal, my interest, my insurance, my taxes, all of that. I'm getting income to cover a lot of that. It makes a lot more sense. Now, there is the difficulty part. We'll call it pain in the ass would probably be more the better specific of having roommates. And they're not all that way, but some are. And sometimes we like our personal space. But having roommates that are paying the rent, they're giving you something. And also then you're splitting the other bills with them too. So you're splitting the internet, you're splitting the utilities. So I have one friend, graduated from college with no debt. As soon as he got his 3.5% down payment, when got pre-approved, bought a house, has 3 roommates, and he's literally paying $70 a month in rent because the roommates pay all of the rest of all of the expenses for that home. So he's basically living rent-free. Now that is a position that we all want to be in. Now, he has 3 roommates, but he's young. Those don't bother him. It's actually kind of good social behavior, social friends, works out most of the time. He doesn't mind it. And he's not paying rent. So there's a huge value add to that. So unless and he's living there, so he's controlling the space. So someone's not destroying his home. So if you're looking at this 3.5% down and paying the PMI, roommates may want to be part of that discussion. Now, if you're a couple and you're thinking about having a family, obviously this doesn't work, but now you have 2 incomes instead of 1. And that helps a lot when you're going for financing and the decision to do this 3.5% down. It gives you great leverage. If you have great credit and you can get that PMI down a lot, even if you have the money to put up more, it may be an option for you. It's something to look at and evaluate. And you have to go through all the numbers and all your scenarios of the different options to decide what's best for you and other options you may have for your money. So the next piece that you need to know is if you're going to go buy a home, then the money you need for a down payment needs to be seasoned. What does seasoned mean? Seasoned basically means that the money is set aside for buying the home and it's been in your bank account for basically 3 months. That's basically what they want to see. And the reason they want to see this is they don't want you borrowing last minute from somebody else so that they don't see that on your credit report when they pull it. So you're going to go through pre-approval. When you go to pre-approval, you're going to put in the application. They're going to go pull your credit report. Credit report's going to say who you owe money to and how much. If you don't have the down payment money sitting in your checking account already, then let's just say you're doing 3.5% down on a $200,000 house. So you need $7,000 for down payment. Maybe you need $2,000 for closing costs, but a lot of times they'll finance your closing costs. So let's just say you need the 3.5%. You need $7,000. Well, if you have a high credit card balance or a high credit card availability of credit, not balance, no balance, high amount of credit. Let's say you have a card that you can get $20,000 off of, and usually they'll say, oh, you can get $5,000 in cash. Let's say you have 2 of those cards. Well, if your money's not seasoned, you could go borrow that money the day before you need to close from your credit card companies, which would reduce your credit score, put that money down, and then owe your credit card companies. And if you think stuff like this hasn't happened, this is the reason the rules are in place. It's because it has happened. It happened way too much. People scanned the system. People lost money. So what do? Put in controls to ensure that the system works better. So you have to have the funds seasoned. They need to sit there for a couple of months. And if they come from anywhere else, if your parents are loaning you money, they want to know if it's a loan or if it's a gift. And they're going to require a letter from the person that sent it to you. So if those people are going to give you money, and it's actually like a gift, like if your parents are going to help you out with a down payment, even if you intend to repay them, from the bank's perspective, it's better to be shown as a gift, because then again, it's not an amount you owe that you have to make a payment on, because that reduces the amount of cash flow you have available for the loan, so you'll get a lower loan amount. This is the way that the system works. It's set up to go, okay, we want to see A, then we want to see B, then we want to see C. And we want to see these things in a nice order, so we're comfortable that when we give you a loan, we don't have to worry about it too much. And it's the process that every lender pretty much has to go through. And now it's to the extent where they're going to call your employer literally the day you're going to go sign paperwork to close and make sure you still have a job. Because people have done that too. Actually, in fact, I did that. Nobody knew about it because I work for myself, so they called me. But literally, the people that I was contracted to work with, I quit the day before I bought my house. Had the bank known that, they might not have financed me. Now, however, I had enough money to do it, and I worked for myself, so I probably could have got another job. But literally, if I would have had an employer, been a W-2 employee, and they called my employer that morning and said, does this person still work here? They would have said no. And I wouldn't have got the loan. It was a crazy thing that happened anyway, but it is what it is. Turns out, bought out that business, it all worked out. But seasoned funds means you need the money sitting there. So I got the money sitting there for my down payment. I've been pre-approved with my lender. Now I'm ready to go shop, right? But here's the other thing that I want to clue you into, because we always think we're ready, and we always underestimate what our costs are going to be. So what's the budget for the home after you close and you've purchased it? Because you might need some things. If you're moving on an apartment and you move into a home with a lawn, well, you might need a lawnmower or an edger. If you're moving into a home where you need to make improvements and you know that, and you found that out during an inspection. Or how about furniture? If you're not moving from a home to a home and you're increasing in space, if you're moving out of a 1,000 square foot apartment into a 1,500 square foot home, you have 500 unfinished square feet to finish. Now also, you might need furniture. You might need window treatments. And I say window treatments with disdain because I'm a male, and window treatments do not add a lot of value into my life. But they do turn a house into a home. They're a piece of the puzzle. But window treatments can be extremely expensive. And here's what I've learned about window treatments. Nobody likes the same stuff. And unless you've spent quite a bit of time in that house that you're about to buy, which is unlikely because it's just not the way the process works, you're not necessarily going to know all the things you want to change before you get in there. So you need to have a budget for what you're going to need when you get in there. I mean, this is even true when you're moving between apartments. You think, hey, I'm in an apartment. I'm moving to another apartment. I'm not going to have to spend a bunch of money. I got to, borrow some friend's truck. We move all the stuff in a day. That's it. And then you find out, I need a trash can here. I need a new liner here. I need 20 different things that all of a sudden add up. And you're like, oh, dang it. I thought I was just moving apartment to apartment. Why are there more expenses? When you move into a house, it's going to be a lot more because it's now your home and you're going to make it the way that you want it. So what have we budgeted for once we get in the house, what we need to do? And here's the minimum that you're going to want to do. You close on a house. Before you move in, you're probably going to want to paint. Almost invariably, you're going to want to paint. Right? Why wouldn't you? There's no furniture in the house. All you got to do is tape off ceilings and floors, throw on a drop cloth, and start rolling paint. So what's the paint budget? What's the Home Depot budget beforehand? Got to have a budget for that. Want to move in. What else am I going to want to tweak and fix in that home right out of the gates? Right away, what do I need to pay for? So you need a budget for that. You need to have a few $1,000s set aside and know that that's just a reality. So the savings for the home, even if you're going to put the 3.5% down, and this is where the 3.5% down option, or am I putting 10, or am I putting 15% down, or am I putting 20? This is where that situation may change for you, where you may go, oh, okay, 3.5%. That's the lowest I can get away with. What's the PMI on that? $200 a month. What if I put 10% down? Oh, now it's like $60 a month. That's much more affordable, and I still have 10% more. If you have the money set aside, you may want it for other things. Now, I'm not telling you that's a great investment with your money. I'm just telling you it's a reality of owning a home that you're going to want to do. And when I bought my home, I thought that I had somewhat of a handle on it. I had no clue how much window treatments and drapes were going to cost, how much fixing things was going to cost, how much painting was going to cost, how much time it was going to take to do all of the little things. I needed to buy a snowblower. Snowblowers are expensive, especially if you want a good one. So am I going to buy a good one that lasts 10 years, or am I going to buy a cheap one that in 3 years I'm going to hate and need another one? Snowblower wasn't really in my budget, I got to tell you. When I went and bought one, I was like, this stings. That's a hit. But if you want to get out of your driveway during the winter in Colorado, in the mountains, you need a snowblower. So I bought one. And I bought a lot more stuff since then. So that's often a huge a huge expense that we're not anticipating. So I'm just putting it out there. Anticipate it. Budget for the home after you buy it. All right, so you're pre-approved. Now you're ready to shop for your home. So the next thing you do is find a real estate agent. I highly recommend you get a referral to either someone who's familiar with the neighborhood you want to move into, or someone who's worked with people that you know that they enjoyed that experience. And once you've told them what your budget and you're pre-approved for, if they show you a home that's above your budget, get rid of them as an agent. Everybody can increase the cost of the home that they're buying. Everyone. But if you don't have the seasoned funds, then you might not close on it anyway. So it's like teasing you. That's like saying, hey, I have $15,000 to go buy a car. Let's go to the Lexus dealership and look at brand new ones that cost $60,000 to $80,000. That's crazy. Don't do it. Oh, well, maybe you just get a little more money for a down payment and just make how can you show a little more income so that you can get approved for a little bit more loan so you can buy a little bit more house that you cannot afford? That's how you get into big trouble. Don't do it. So if you hire a real estate agent, you say, this is my budget. If they show you a home that is over your budget, get rid of them. Get somebody else. And tell them exactly why, because it's rude. It is absolutely rude. Just is, because that is your budget. That is what you're working with. So a real estate agent is important for a couple of reasons when you're buying. One, they're going to know neighborhoods, schools, taxes, zoning laws. They should know all of those things in specific neighborhoods. So you may want a realtor who's really familiar with specific neighborhoods. If you're in a really big city, then that matters even more. But you want somebody who's familiar with what you're after. So what is your criteria for the home? And most people, you guys already know this when you're going to buy a home. Everybody knows kind of where they want to live or what they're looking for, or are you open to different districts? So if you've got a real estate agent who's on the game and they go, hey, look, you can go buy over here into this neighborhood. It's an established neighborhood that's been going for a good while. Prices are pretty high. Or maybe your situation is you don't have any kids and we can move you in this other neighborhood that's up and coming. So it's being, you could call it gentrified. You could call it investments are being made in it, that people are buying houses and fixing them up in neighborhoods that have been, they haven't had any investment in them. So maybe the up and coming neighborhood has a lot more potential for you to increase the value of your home. Also, maybe it's this is where you can find the affordability that you want based on your budget. This is where a real estate agent helps you. But what you need to know about this real estate agent is that their incentives are not aligned with yours 100%. A real estate agent gets paid when you close on the house. They don't get paid if that house is the best house for you. They don't get paid if the deal doesn't close. So in some respects, their incentives align to get the deal closed. But that's to get the deal closed. That's not necessarily to get you the best price. It's not necessarily to get you the best deal. It's to get the deal closed. And the difference for you, and this works whether you're buying or selling, the difference for you is that their commission percentage, let's say they're making 3% and you're looking at $200,000 home. So roughly they're going to get $6,000. Maybe it's $5,000. But they're going to get $5,000. Now, if you pay $210,000, they actually get more money. So if you pay more for a home than it's worth, your real estate agent does better. That's what I mean by saying incentives are not completely aligned. Now, the other aspects that real estate agents are supposed to help you with is understanding that market, that neighborhood. And I've seen it in Denver over the past few years where it's so crazy. People are buying homes, making offers on homes they've never even walked through because that home is going to be for sale for literally minutes to hours, which is absolutely crazy. But that's just how many people have been moving to Colorado, and the supply-demand curve has shifted that much where there's so much demand and so little supply that homes have gone that fast. Now, more supplies come online, homes are starting to be on the market longer, actually starting to see prices decline a little bit, which is a good thing for the overall market. Not necessarily good for you if you're the individual homeowner, but that's the state of affairs. So I just want you to know that when you're looking for an agent, there are things that they can really help you with that you may not know, especially if you're moving in between cities. If you're moving to Colorado and you don't live here already, then you're not necessarily going to know what the neighborhoods in Denver are. You're not going to know all the different ones and where they're coming up, and different options for you, and where public transportation may or may not be better, where access roads may or may not be better, where they're building versus where they're not. There's a lot of specific market information that a good real estate agent should know. And again, just know that you're the one that has to do the due diligence. That's not your real estate agent's job. So, finding a home. You need to have the list for your agent of what's important to you before you ever even sit down with the agent. Because basically your job is to interview an agent that you like. If you don't end up with an agent you like, that's on you. Just because someone else referred them that says they're good. They need to vibe with you. You need to have a good feeling. Because again, the incentives aren't completely aligned. So that means you really need to have a good feeling and trust that person that they're going to do what is best for you. I.e., they're not going to show you homes above your budget. I.e., they're going to provide you with real good, solid advice when it comes to pricing and offers and the neighborhood. So you need to have a list for your agent of what's important to you. Budget, neighborhood, school district, the location and access to public transportation, property taxes. So property taxes, and the other one I'm going to throw in there is HOA fees, homeowner association fees. And zoning limitations might be one as well. So maybe you can buy a property that all of a sudden you can build a second apartment on, or a lock-off unit that you could rent. That makes that property more valuable in the long term. You may also be in a neighborhood that has covenants, which means no one can park outside, or you're not going to be able to add anything on you. There's limitations that people like to put in place to make themselves feel safer or better or whatever, and things that cost you money. So a lot of times you'll have a gated community, and we all know that the gates are smoke and mirrors because you just get behind somebody driving in and drive in right behind them. So it's not like no one can get in, but you pay an HOA fee for that gate that serves really no purpose, but makes it feel exclusive. So property taxes and HOA fees are a couple of things you should ask the real estate agents about. And that doesn't mean that they're going to know necessarily all of it, or it will be different. So if you're in a city and you're within city limits, typically the property tax difference is not going to be substantial. But if you're choosing between, let's say, 3 different suburbs, those could be significantly different. Now, those could also be different in school district. But let's say you have kids, the school district's important to you, so you want to be in the nicer school district. Well, guess what that usually entails? Higher property taxes. That's how they pay for the nicer schools. But what if you're single and don't want to have kids? Then access to the nice school district isn't on top of your list. It's actually on the bottom of it, and you're saying, I don't even care about school district. I care about long-term increase in property value and what are current property tax rates. Oh, they're lower, and that can literally be one side of the street versus the other. On one side of the street, taxes can be different. There's always a line at which the city, county changes. The property that I ended up purchasing, I am not within the city limits. We're known as what? Out of city county. Why does that matter? It matters a lot. It means my property tax rate is lower. It means my sales tax rate is much lower. That saves me a lot of money. A lot of places in Colorado in the mountains have huge HOA fees, to the tune of, I have a friend who lives in Breckenridge in a condo, and her HOA fee is $550 per month. That's rent for some people in some places. And that's what her HOA fee is. And with HOAs, they can give you assessments, which means that, we want to put a new facade on all the buildings. It's approved. We're going to send you a bill for $40,000. I've seen that happen to people a year after they bought. Tough to deal with. So, homeowners association fees. In general, I do not recommend shared space because when it's shared, people don't take care of it. And the increase in your property value will in large part be from you taking care of your property and hopefully your neighbors doing the same. So, a real estate agent can help you with avoiding property taxes, avoiding HOAs, but you got to ask these questions to them. If they don't know they're important to you, then they may just think that it doesn't matter. It's a priority list for you. What's most important? Budget's top of the list. Unless you make tons of money, but it doesn't matter how much money you make. Unless you're Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs type of, Bill Gates type of, you could never spend all the money that you have. Then budget matters to all of us because you could always spend more, but you don't want to. Stay within your budget. So that's always one. Neighborhood and school district. If you're family, that's might be second thing on your list, right? If you're young and don't want to have a car, access to public transportation could be high on your list. So if you can walk 2 blocks to a light rail to take it downtown so you don't have to drive and park, that's a huge savings to you. So location matters. Property taxes, HOA, zoning limitations. Those are the main things. So your real estate agent needs to know what these are prioritized for you. And that's the discussion you need to have with them specifically. And this is where we differ slightly in, hey, it's not a one size cookie cutter fits all. It's what do I really need to make this work for me? So now you're ready to go shop. Now my guess is, for most of us, you've already done the research. You've been looking on Zillow for a while. You've looked at different neighborhoods, you're looking at different houses, you're looking at the interior of them, you're going, what's for sale, what's the market looking like, how long has it been on the market? You're doing half of the work for the real estate agents now. Anyway, all of the work they used to have to do of knowing all the homes on the market and finding those within your budget range. Now so much of that is done on Zillow. So much so that Zillow is now one of the top places for real estate agents to market themselves to you, the consumer. But also realize you're helping them with their job. So make sure that the part that they need to help you with, specifically, you're addressing and making sure they help you with that. So that's part one. Now you're ready to go shop and find your home. Once you've found the home, that'll be the next episode. Now, what's the process that you're about to go through buying a home? So thanks for listening. This has been Keep Yours. We'll be back next time with the second part of buying your home.